What has buns of steel and is capable of flying faster than a speeding bullet? It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Mothman. Friend or foe? Stay tuned and we will try to find out. Hello everyone, my name is Lisa and welcome to Lisa Explains It All, a true crime, mystery, and art history podcast. And welcome to episode 2, everyone's favorite cryptid, Mothman. For this week's episode, I'm just going to present the evidence and I will let you decide what you think is going on here. And I will save my 2 cents for the end. But first, coffee. Today, my bevanda of choice is some coffee featuring some international delights, like cherry almond macaron creamer. Not sponsored. And it's pretty good. It's very sweet, so if you like really, really sweet coffee creamer, you might like this. And for the first segment of this week's episode, I'm going to head on over to the cryptozoology tag over on Reddit. And somebody asked, quote, had anyone on this sub actually had their own cryptid sightings? Genuinely curious to see what people have seen. So now, again, unscripted here, I'm just going to read for you, dear listeners, some of the replies that people have left stating cryptid sightings that they themselves claim to have seen. So, okay, let's go jump off the deep end here. And the first one from a user, SH, quote, yeah, about 15 years back, I was 15 living in Pennsylvania. I always went to church to play basketball at about 6 or 7 p.m. in the winter. It was near a major road, but off towards the back, kind of how you see deer on the side of major roads in the bushy areas. Long story short, I'm cutting through the back way with my friend, and we see a giant centipede-like creature run from one bushy area across to another. It had to be at least 4 foot tall. We stopped, froze, and went home. I never saw or heard anything like it again. Very creepy bug-like animal. And somebody responded, that sounds like nightmare fuel. Okay. So yeah, wow. Nightmare fuel for sure. Okay, next. Driving across the country, there was a freeway closure really late at night. The detour redirected us to a bunch of cornfields with a tiny road and these sharp turns. It was pitch black, there were no cars, and no buildings around. We followed the GPS and were on a road when something, I don't know how to explain it, crossed the road quickly. It looked beige with really long, slender legs. I don't know why I'm laughing. Sorry. Okay. Was on all fours and had a small head like a female doe, minus the ears. It moved so quickly and had its head dipped down. It was so off-putting We didn't say a word for about 30 seconds. There was a weird shift in the air. To this day, I can't even begin to tell you what it was. And I've never seen anything like it since. Okay, and next, somebody wrote small little gremlin-like creature about 20 feet in front of me at 10:30ish at night. Though I couldn't make out any features, it was like a black blob / void of energy or something. So, for example, I couldn't make out any fur or details in the face, even though I had adequate seconds to stare down as best as I could. The only thing I could make out very well, though, is long nails, talon like where its feet should be, and I believe its head area was kind of like a football shape. But I'll totally admit that's more fuzzy in my memory compared to the claws / nails, and it was only about 2.5 feet tall. Wow. Yeesh. That was very obs, too. It never walked towards me as in approaching and closing the distance, only side to side pretty slowly. Yeesh. I couldn't see eyes, but it was probably looking at me, and it made no noise at all other than stepping of leaves crunching. This was back in late 2021. This whole sequence lasted about 15 to 20 seconds that I was staring this thing down before I turned around to haul my butt back home. LOL. Okay, and last but not least, we have somebody who saw the Beast of State Line Road. Quote, this is basically a Beast of Bray Road sighting, but it happened in southern Indiana, far from Bray Road. Okay. My sighting happened between 1992 and 1995 because I only lived in the area during that time. My best guess is that it was 1992 to 1993. Okay. The sighting happened on State Line Road just off of Route 50 in southern Indiana / Ohio, right by Hidden Valley Lake. You can see on Google Maps that the area is still pretty wooded, even 25 years later. The usual caveats apply. I had not been drinking and I wasn't on drugs. Okay. I had just turned into State Line Road from Route 50 and I saw a large animal in the road. It looked like a huge dog hunched over roadkill. As I neared it, I began to suspect it was one of my neighbor's dogs. He had 2 Irish wolfhounds. If you don't know, those are huge dogs that stand about 3 foot on the shoulders. I assumed one of them had got out. By this time, I was slowing down because the animal didn't seem aware of my car, and I was about 30 yards away. I was starting to plan how I was going to get a dog that big into my car so I could drive it home. Well, that was nice of you. And also wondering if wolfhounds were typically dangerous to approach. I was also trying to figure out if I should wake the neighbors up or just try and tie the dog up outside or something. As my mind raced through these thoughts, this all happened in just a few seconds. The animal finally turned and looked at my car. So I stopped the car completely. Its face looked more like the shape of a police dog's than a wolfhound's, and that threw me. I remember wondering why my neighbor's dog looked so strange. and then the animal simply stood up on two legs and calmly walked off to the west into the tall grass off the road. My mind at this point was still trying to reconcile how this was my neighbor's wolfhound. I literally thought he had trained his dogs to walk on two legs and had never told us. Then it started to sink in. The shape of the head was wrong. The build of the dog was too muscular, and it walked like a human, not a circus dog. My mind looped back to that, of course. It had walked off like a human on two legs, and its gaze had lingered on me as if its attitude was telling me, I didn't have to move, you know. The fur was long and shaggy and gray, although in the darkness I could have misjudged the color, and my mind filled it in with color I was expecting to see on my neighbor's wolfhound. I watched it walk, still casually, until it was swallowed by the shadows and trees on the other side of a small field. I was terrified to drive the rest of the way home. I never mentioned it to anyone, but in the morning I asked my mom if the neighbor's dogs had got out. And when she asked why I wanted to know, I just said I thought I'd seen one. But both dogs were accounted for, and neither had got out. So, yikes, wow. Okay, and thank you once again, Reddit, for providing the answers to all of our questions. So apparently real people out there are seeing these cryptids in real life. So do with that what you will. Are they real? Are they fake? Are they just trying to scare you? Write me a comment and let me know what you think. Also, if you, dear listener, have any creepy cryptid sightings of your own, do send me an email over at lisaexplains@gmail.com, and I would love to include your story in an upcoming Listeners' Stories episode. So, thank you very much. Again, that is lisaexplains@gmail.com. So I look forward to hearing from you. All right, back to Mothman. Here we go. And as always, all of the sources that I used for today's episode are in the show notes. So objectively, here is the evidence. And let's start with some Mothman 101. Okay, in appearance. Quote, a tall humanoid figure with large wings and glowing red eyes. End quote. Also, he has been described as a winged creature with a 10-foot wingspan. And also, quote, a slender, muscular man, approximately 7 feet tall, with white wings. And that is how Linda Scarberry, one of the first Mothman witnesses, described him. Okay, first sighting. On November 15th in 1966, in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Mallett were out driving around in Scarberry's vehicle. And approximately 7 miles outside of Point Pleasant, while they were passing a World War II TNT factory, they saw 2 red lights in the shadows by the factory gates. They proceeded to stop the vehicle, and they became frightened when they realized that the lights were the eyes of a large animal. Roger Scarberry later stated that, quote, It was shaped like a man, but bigger, maybe 6.5 or 7 feet tall, with big wings folded against its back. End quote. They quickly sped off, heading towards Route 62 in the car. As they were driving down the exit ramp, they saw the creature again, standing on a ridge near the road. Its wings were spread, and it took off, and he proceeded to follow their car to the city limits. They headed to the courthouse and told their story to Deputy Millard Halstead. They informed police that they saw a, quote, large black creature whose eyes glowed red, standing by the side of the road near the TNT area, end quote. Deputy Halstead later said, "I've known these kids all their lives. They've never been in any trouble, and they were really scared that night. I took them seriously," end quote. The deputy followed Scarberry's vehicle back towards the TNT factory, but saw nothing. Additional sightings would continue on for the next few days. 2 volunteer firemen also reported seeing a, quote, large bird with red eyes. And now for some backstory. On December 15th, 1967, the Silver Bridge collapse incident resulted in the deaths of 46 people, and Mothman was blamed for the bridge collapse by some, and it was alleged that Mothman was seen slightly before the bridge collapsed, foretelling disaster. And it was also believed that the town was cursed. And additionally, some witnesses in the Point Pleasant area claimed that they were contacted by the Men in Black to not discuss the sightings any further. And now for some theories. So, according to a WDU biologist, the original sighting was a sandhill crane, and this is based on the fact that there are cranes in the area. It is also possible that it was a mutated crane who drank radioactive water. Additionally, Mothman is thought by some to be an interdimensional being, and this is based on the fact that he often vanishes. Next, some people believe that Mothman is actually a snowy owl, because snowy owls have an almost 5-foot wingspan. Okay, and next, some people have theorized that Mothman is an alien, and that is for obvious reasons. And lastly, a helicopter. And that would be based on the fact that he is large with big black wings and red lights. So helicopters have some red lights and big black wings. And every year in Point Pleasant there is the annual Mothman Festival, which began in 2002, which draws 10 to 12,000 people every year. And at said festival, you can have your photo taken with a 12-foot tall statue, which was created by sculptor Bob Roach in 2003, and people love to line up and have their photo taken with a gigantic 12-foot tall Mothman statue that has the said buns of steel that I referred to earlier. So go ahead and Google that statue for some nice cryptid eye candy. Highly recommend. For some additional reading, there is the very well-known 1975 book titled The Mothman Prophecies. along with that, there was a movie made in 2002, also called The Mothman Prophecies, starring Richard Gere. So check those out. And I personally recommend the 2017 documentary called The Mothman of Point Pleasant, which right now is available for free on Tubi in the US. And it's a very good, thorough, informative documentary, so I highly recommend it. And also, as a bonus recommendation, there is the Mothman in Love series by author Paige Lavoie. I think I'm saying that right. And it's a series of 3 books. It's titled, the first one is titled I'm in Love with Mothman. The second book is titled I'm Engaged to Mothman. And the third book is titled I'm Getting Married to Mothman. These books are available on Hoopla if you would like to go test them out. And I will also include in the show notes a link to a map hub that somebody created that maps out all of the Mothman sightings that have occurred throughout the globe. It's very interesting. You can look at all of the sightings all at once, and the man who created the map kind of tries to figure out if there's any patterns to the sightings. It's very, very interesting indeed. And I also found it interesting that there are 0 Mothman sightings in my home state of New York. So, what's going on with that, huh? Anybody know? Does anybody know why there are no Mothman sightings in the state of New York? And for my 2 cents here of what I think of all this, all I can say is I have seen plenty of cranes in my life. I mean, granted during the day and all, and not mutated cranes either. So there's that. But I'm just telling you, these people are seeing something other than a crane. So there's that. And I've also seen helicopters at night before, and I've never in my life confused it for a cryptid. So again, to sum it up here, I think these people are seeing something other than a crane or a helicopter. So you're welcome for that bit of knowledge. Okay. So thank you very much for listening. And as always, if you have any true crime, mystery, or strange, creepy art history stories that you would like me to cover, please leave me a comment or write me an email again at lisaexplains@gmail.com. And thank you again for joining me for episode 2 here. And now for your random art history fact of the day. Salvador Dali was pretty obsessed with cauliflower. So much so that in 1955, he filled a Rolls Royce with over 1,000 pounds, or 500 kilos, of cauliflower, and proceeded to drive to Paris to give a lecture. So have a great day, everybody, and thanks again for listening.